So after 30 minutes in the chamber, it was that door that ultimately a number of us were able to get out. And when we got out, we saw the insurgents being held at gunpoint on this floor that I'm standing on right now. So right behind me is the House chamber. In fact, that door that you see is the door that the insurgents almost managed to break down. And that famous picture of the police with their weapons drawn were pointed at the insurgents who were right here trying to break into that chamber. Behind that door, of course, is the chamber of the House of Representatives, where we returned at the end of that night to finally finish the process of counting the electoral ballots. Some of the very worst violence on January 6th took place right here in this door, and you'll probably never forget the images, as will I. Of course, the Capitol is through these doors, and this was the spot where the insurrectionists first were able to break in. And you may recall the images of the battering of police officers here. There was literally a hand-to-hand combat occurring right here. The horrid images of them squeezing that young police officer between the bulletproof doors occurred all right here. It's all been cleaned up right now, but for me, for my colleagues, and I think for most American people, the images of that brutality, that violence, that attack not just on our democracy, but attack on law enforcement officers, we'll never forget that. And so 2 years later, the wounds are still open, but I'm an optimist. I really believe that we're in a better place 2 years on than we were on January 6th 2 years ago. I believe that because it was that night that through broken glass and blood-stained floors, we came back and finished the process of certifying the election. I believe that because the institutions that are important to our democracy stood up and continue to stand up. Our courts that turned away every ludicrous challenge to our electoral process. The media, which as annoying as it may be to people like me, shines a light on some really dark things. And most importantly, we saw in this election just 2 months ago that many of the people who are trying to perpetuate the lie that our electoral system is corrupt and broken didn't ultimately receive the majority of the votes that would allow them to serve here or in governor's mansions or in state houses. But we need to make a decision about how much we as citizens care about our democracy. Nothing I say or do or this institution says or does matters as much as what the citizens of a democracy believe. And if our citizens believe that the opposition is the enemy, that if the disagreement is the same as treason, if people believe that violence is okay in certain circumstances as a way of resolving political disagreements, we won't ultimately hold on to our democracy. So we just can't forget that if we really want to stop what happened here 2 years ago, a lot of what needs to happen happens inside of us, because we remember that as Americans, we have more in common than we have differences, and that we have rule of law, and we treat each other decently and with humility. That's how we preserve our democracy.